it's like the social media equivalent of a nuclear weapon.
It really is.
Like when it's about to blow, you better get out the way because
Get
it's
out the
crazy,
way.
man.
This is about you. This podcast is about you, your journey in music, and how you got to where you are now. And I'd love the Eleanor Rigby cover you put together.
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked because it's kind of exploding right now. I mean, not to get too in the weeds here, but like the back end numbers on Spotify are getting pretty crazy.
That's amazing.
So
That is so
last,
cool.
I'm just shocked at how many people actually are interested in orchestral music. It's
Well, it's a
not what I would
beautiful
have
piece.
expected.
Yeah. I mean, the way it's all put together is amazing.
Oh, well, and the Beatles, of course. How can you?
Sure. But I want to talk to you about it. We'll get into it. But yeah, I saw like you credit like 500 people, you said?
Yeah. So there was I can't remember exact number of orchestra, but it was between like 80 and 100 people in the orchestra by itself, plus all the engineers for the studio. And then I crowdsourced a choir from my fans that ended up being about 394 voices. And it's crazy.
That is nuts. Yeah, we'll get into it. But I want to just find about your origin story, so to speak. You're from Chicago originally?
Yes, grew up in Chicago. Loved it. Miss Chicago sometimes. I live in Nashville now.
Yeah, I
But
saw that. I'm in the Nashville area as well.
oh,
I just
okay.
moved here. Yeah, for about 6 months ago from San Diego.
Welcome. I don't know why you left San Diego, but welcome to Nashville.
I love it here, man. It's just like a different speed of life here, but I really
Yeah,
enjoy it.
definitely.
Cool. So tell me about Chicago. Are you in the city?
No, I grew up in the suburbs north of Chicago, kind of near Evanston. And growing up, my dad was a jingle composer. He, worked with huge brands like McDonald's and Nintendo and all these
That's so
amazing
cool.
companies. And I have three sisters, two older, one younger. And when I was a kid, he started doing these kids jingles, like so stuff for Happy Meals and like stuff like that. And the clients they wanted kids' voices to sing the jingles all the time. And at some point it dawned on him, he's like, well, I've got four kids. Like, why don't they just start singing on this stuff? And so,
Yeah.
I remember
Put them
going
to work.
going to studios at, super young age, just like singing on these McDonald's jingles and all that stuff. And so it was such an amazing upbringing to be like a working musician from such a young age. And kind of grew up with that, had a studio in the house. It was like winning the lottery as a kid. It's incredible. And basically, as soon as the jingle business sort of started dying a little bit because jingles went out of style, my dad had transitioned already into orchestral writing. And so when I was in my kind of formative years in high school and stuff, he was super passionate about writing for orchestras, was doing a lot of stuff with the Chicago Symphony. And just his passion for it, man. I just remember as a kid being like, he's just having fun all the time. And so I just want to do that.
Right.
I want to have fun all the time. And so it was just
Probably worked from home and most of the
oh
time.
yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
It was incredible. And just his joy for music was so contagious for me. And it was really kind of a no-brainer about what I wanted to do with my life.
that's nice. I mean, what a cool career. I always thought that was, I never really thought of it as like something that would be, I mean, I'm not a musician, but like it always, I come back to like 2.5 Men, like Charlie Harper, like Chuck Sheen's character. He's like a
Yeah.
jingle writer. And I'm like, what a rad job just to like
Yeah.
write jingles. And, but to grow up with that must be, I would
Yeah.
imagine it's obviously a very, very hard space to get into.
I think so. It was probably easier at the time because jingles were so popular back in like the late 80s, early 90s, and so I would imagine there was a lot of work to be done and there was just tons of money in music floating around back then.
Right.
Not anymore. But he was so good at it. And I think this is kind of the skill that he taught me most of all was like, if you're going to be a jingle writer, you have to be able to do anything because the
Mhm.
clients could come in and say, one day they're like, all right, we want like a Beethoven symphony, and the next day they're like, all right, we want like a Jamaican calypso. It's, you have to be able to convincingly create whatever genre that the client wants. And so that has sort of rubbed off on me a lot in terms of, when I hear a song, I don't immediately assign my own production style to it. I just say, what does the song want? Like, the song is the client, and I say, what does this song want from the instrumentation here and from the arrangement? And so that's how I approach like my songwriting now. It's from like the arranger's mindset and less of, well, I don't know. Yeah, the arranger's mindset.
It's interesting. So I would imagine you're classically trained in.
I mean, classically, it's probably, that's a wide ranging word. I took piano lessons. I took guitar lessons even for a short time. So I read music. I know music theory and all that. I am
Right.
not good at playing classical music, but I love classical music.
Okay.
I did a lot of jazz training when I was in high school and a little bit in college. And I went to college for music as well.
You went to Belmont?
Yeah, I went to Belmont University in Nashville. I don't know how deep in the weeds we're trying to get here, but
we're gonna get in the weeds. But we're gonna go back even further if that's cool with you. So what was it?
Yeah.
So I mean, you and your sister sang on your dad's early jingles, and I'm curious to know if they pursued music at all.
Not as careers. They're all wonderful singers and people. But I was the only one stupid enough to try to do this as my job.
Okay.
They all got real jobs. They do it way better than I am.
Got it. And then does dad go, okay, you should all go to piano lessons? Like, was that a thing that was kind of you just did at your household?
What's interesting, man, is that my parents never forced us to do any of it. It was all kind of like, what are we interested in? Two of my sisters were incredibly interested in sports, and so it was like sports every day. And if we wanted to take piano lessons, then that was something that they were definitely open to. And actually, I should maybe rephrase. In my particular case, I hated piano lessons, but they made me keep going because they could tell I was good at it.
Okay.
And I'm so grateful that they did. But I think for the most part, they wouldn't have forced me to keep going if I didn't want to do it.
Right.
So it was very kind of, it was open to us, but not forced on us.
Got it. Did dad teach you piano, or did you go to a different teacher?
No, I had an amazing, just like the most classic, like Russian piano teacher. Her name was Marina.
Okay.
And she would walk in the door and she'd be like, "How you doing, boy?" And I'm like, "Hello, Marina." And I learned from like the books with like the flying pianos on it and stuff. But I think most of, and she was amazing. She was a great teacher, and I'm sure put up with me, which was probably not an easy feat. But my dad would also kind of come in and show me, more theory stuff that I wanted to know about pop music, because I was learning how to read music and stuff in piano lessons, but I just wanted to be able to play like, the songs I heard on the radio. And
of course,
my dad would come in and kind of be like, "All right, here's what a C chord is."
Okay.
And that was
so
really,
he
that
helped.
was great.
Yeah. He was able to answer questions for you, obviously.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Okay. So when you get into middle school, high school, you start playing in the jazz band, or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got into jazz band as a piano player, and I enjoyed that. And I mean, by my senior year of high school, I think I was taking one academic class called creative writing, and then I was taking 6 music classes.
Well, creative writing kind of falls in the same line,
Right.
I would imagine,
Yeah.
right?
I loved it. I mean, yeah, I just kind of, I don't know what happened. At one point I just decided, all right, I'm gonna go all in on this. And I was like, I played in the jazz band, I played in the guitar ensemble, which was kind of a weird thing we had.
Oh,
And
that's
then
cool.
I sang in the jazz choir, I sang in the musical theater choir. I volunteered with a thing called High Five Choir that was for special needs students, and just like a singing class. So fun. And
That's
then
cool.
also, since I was so interested in orchestration and stuff, the orchestra director, he was kind enough to let me be in the orchestra, even though I can't play anything. He just put me in the percussion section and said, "Hey, just like come to class, observe." And if I ever had an arrangement I was working on, he'd let me bring it in, and the symphony orchestra would read it down for me, which, I mean, what a cool thing. And so
Wow.
I just sat in the back playing triangle and absorbing orchestral teaching from this amazing orchestra director.
That's amazing. So you were already writing pieces and like in high school like that.
Yeah, I loved it. I was into movies too, and so I love to like make little movies and score them, basically, like write music for them.
Yeah.
And so I was always interested. I love like John Williams and Hans Zimmer, and I loved movie music, and it was always something I wanted to incorporate into what I did.
Was that kind of the path that you wanted to go, like more of the music, like scoring route, or did you want to be a performer or songwriter?
That's a good question. It's hard to like think back to your mindset in those
Yeah.
days, because I feel like in high school you're just like, I don't know, let's do whatever. You just kind of going with the flow. But I think, oh man, it's tough to say. I loved performing, but I don't know if I ever believed that I was gonna like be some arena touring act. I knew that I needed to develop I need I knew I needed to develop like skills that I could monetize if I wanted to make it
Hmm.
in the music industry. Um, and so I just kind of took the mindset of, I'm going to try to figure out how to do as many things as possible, whether it be horn arrangements or string arrangements or production work or vocal tuning or even doing like album artwork or photography, or like any way that I can keep doing things that are in the music industry, kind of close by to what I want to end up doing, just to make me stay in that lane and not have to take a side job at Starbucks or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just I wanted to try to figure out a way I could just keep doing music and kind of make sure I could keep my focus on that all the time.
Hmm. So you attend Belmont University. Did you go there? Like, how did you, like, what was your major when you went into the school?
I went into the school as a voice major and I stayed that way the whole time. I thought
Oh, okay.
getting in as a voice major would be the best way for me to get in. I was worried I wasn't going to get it.
Okay.
And immediately I knew that Belmont had a very unique atmosphere. I don't know. This was also a special time for Belmont too. It was kind of growing really fast, but it wasn't huge yet. And I visited other schools, and it felt like the mindset at some of these other places was like, you either play jazz or you go home. Like,
Right.
kind of like play real music or get out of here. And when I got to Belmont, it was like country music, pop music, indie music. It was just, everybody was so open. It just felt such an open culture of music. And that's what really appealed to me. And I loved my time at Belmont. I miss it sometimes. Not
Hmm.
all the time, but sometimes.
You put out a record in 2012, Audio Cinema.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
was,
So
tell me about
it
that
was
album.
actually, it was kind of the first real album I ever made. And it's kind of, we recorded the whole thing, me and my buddy Nico, in the house we were living in at the time. And
Were you still in
uh,
school when,
I
or
was
had you
still in
graduated?
school.
Okay.
I actually played the entire record. I think it's only 7 or 8 songs. I played it top to bottom for my senior recital.
Oh, cool.
So
Did
yeah,
a lot of people
and
play original songs, or was that kind of not done a whole lot?
I guess I don't really know. I think it was less common, but not uncommon. So
Okay.
it wasn't like everybody was doing that, but there were other people
Other
writing
people doing it. Got
originals.
it.
Yeah.
So you played that record as your senior project or
Yeah, for my senior recital, because I had to
senior
do it as a
recital?
voice major. So I just played the whole record top to bottom. Um, and yeah, I just loved that atmosphere at Belmont. They did these things called the showcases too, which are basically like little mini arena shows. And I got into one of those one year. It was called the Pop Showcase, and got to play some of my songs like with crazy lights and staging and the whole crew and all that. It's just such a cool experience as a student.
Hmm. And once you graduate, what's next?
So the way my path went was, you know, I always tell people about music college in particular, and maybe this applies to all college, is that you're not going to learn things. You're going to meet people, because those people become the basis for the rest of your career.
Mhm.
And so one of those people was this guy, Jake Goss, and he's actually now, he plays drums in the band Laney. He was one of the
Oh,
forming members of
wow.
that band. But at the time, he was playing with this guy, Ben Rector, who was kind of this up and coming singer songwriter at the time, who I loved. And Ben was looking for a guy that played keys and guitar, which you'd be surprised. There's not that many people that are super proficient at keys and can also play electric and acoustic guitar. And so the list is kind of short, and he called me to do it. And so right out of college, I joined Ben's band and just went right on tour with him. And I kept touring with Ben for, I think it was over 5 years, and just had some of the most fun I've ever had in my whole life. It was such a great crew. And as I was, I was still pursuing artist stuff as well and doing production and, keeping everything moving. But to work for Ben, I tell people it's like, when you go to Paris and apprentice with like an amazing chef, you just like, there's no amount of book learning that you can use to replace just like being in the same room as that chef. And Ben is that way, where I got to see him firsthand run his business as an independent artist, and the way he handled shows and management and all the things that are a part of being an artist. I got to watch someone do it at such a high level, and his growth spurt while I was there was crazy. It was like we started out in a van and trailer, and by the end it was like selling out thousands of seats in theaters all over the country. And so it was just one of those amazing learning experiences. You could just never pay for it,
Sure. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, exactly what you said. You'd learn more in a room with a chef in that short period of time than you would ever be able to pick up from just trying to read it out of a book.
Yep.
And so you were pursuing your solo career or your artist career at the same time, and just probably mainly focusing on that because that was probably paying the bills, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny, man. Like I do a lot of different things. I do production, I do scoring work, and I was touring with artists for a long time. And my personal artist thing really never started taking off until maybe like 2 or 3 years ago.
Really?
It had steady growth and it was going great, but it wasn't like, all right, I can drop this and just do that full time. I maybe could have, but it was like, you'd be living in a 1 bedroom, it's really, this is like that type of thing where it's like, yeah, there's money being made, but it's not enough to like really sustain me and my family. And so I was so grateful to have all those other opportunities that allowed me to keep in music and keep going, while also being able to like take some of that extra money and put it into making my artist stuff better and better.
Sure. And you did American Idol?
Yes. So yeah, I didn't like stand in line or anything. They just called me and said, will you come audition for American Idol?
Oh, really? You got the
So
pass. I like that.
Yeah, it was one of those things that kind of just fell into my lap. And I
How
thought,
did they find you?
I just think online. They have scouts. All the vocal shows, they have scouts. They just scour the internet for people who have followings and who might be good fit for the show. And so I just walked in and got to play Somewhere Over the Rainbow for the celebrity judges. Who at the time were Harry Connick and Keith Urban and Jennifer Lopez.
That's cool. And you passed through the first round, obviously.
I did. Harry Connick loved it. Keith Urban loved it. Jennifer Lopez, she was not having it. Yeah, but
whatever.
2 out of 3 means you go to Hollywood. So
that's cool. So you got a chance to go to Hollywood.
Yeah, and I guess my shtick about American Idol is that I've never learned more in such a short period of time.
Is that right?
Yeah, because when you think about the types of performance experiences that exist at a high level, right? So it's like the Super Bowl. And I bet you're probably nervous to play the Super Bowl, but by that same token, you have tons of people working for you to make sure that everything goes amazing. TV crew wants it to be amazing. Your band wants it to be amazing. Everybody wants it to be amazing. When you go on a show like American Idol, you are just utterly alone. There is no one there that's going to step in and help you if things start going bad.
Yeah, they want stuff to go bad.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I would think, like, right?
They try to create drama. And so the mental energy it took to be on that show was pretty intense. And I don't think I would do it again. I'm glad that I did it, because I now literally you cannot make me nervous. You just put me in any, it's like there will never be a situation that's more nerve-wracking than that for me. Just being totally out of control about how things are going to go. And
Right.
so
Being on
in that
Nashville
sense,
TV in a live
right.
setting, like,
Yeah. And I got lucky because they featured me, and in a very positive way. So it was a great experience, and everyone at American Idol was so kind and wonderful. Um,
mhm.
but it's just such an intense experience. I don't, and it's not really about music, as we all know. It's about TV. That's with a TV show. It's not a music show. So
Right.
I am glad that I did it, because I learned so much. But I don't think I'd do it again.
It is interesting who wins, you know. I don't know how much of it's really, I mean, I don't, maybe I'm wrong, like voted in by people. I don't know. I feel like
Right.
they've probably tried for a few years to pick the person that got the most votes, and then it was like, well, then their album flops, or you know, the guy that gets second or third, the record does really well, like Daughtry, or you know, some of those other guys that came out of it.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but
It's
yeah,
interesting. I don't know. I mean, I only made it to the top. I think I was cut at the top 24. So I don't know how it went after
right,
that,
right,
but
right. But it's just interesting how the whole
I
thing
got
kind of.
really lucky, because had I made it one step further, that's the point where you sign all the contracts. So
Oh,
literally, I made it
really?
as far as I could go without having to sign any of the contracts. Not Didn't plan it that way. I would have gone, but I just look
Yeah. So
back at
then
that
they
and go,
own you
man,
for
that
a bit, huh?
it's I don't know how it actually
Political.
shakes out in real life,
Yeah,
but it makes certain things more difficult, sure,
sure. Did
especially
that
as an
help?
indie artist.
You're right, 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 right. From there, from the show, did that? I would think that more eyes are on you at this point when you're off the show, as far as your solo stuff went,
You
or
know,
not really?
to be honest with you, man, not at all.
Really?
No one knows that I was on American Idol. No one comes up to me and says, "Hey, you were on American Idol." Everybody comes up to me and goes, "Hey, I saw you tour with Ben Rector." Or what, it's like that's like
Yeah.
the stuff people know about me. Nobody knows I was on American Idol. And obviously I
Uh,
don't broadcast it. I'm not trying to trade off of it. But I think at that point, especially, ratings were not very good. They might even be better now, but I think it was like one of the lowest rated seasons of any of them they had ever done.
okay. So
So
you get off the show, and then you're back to your solo career, and you're still touring with Brian Rector at the time.
yeah, yeah. Yes. So I had to miss a couple shows, I think, to do American Idol, but then as soon as I was done with that, went back, kept touring with Ben. Um, and touring with Ben is really great, because he was only doing like 40 or so short shows a year. So it's like a
Uh-huh.
fall tour and a spring tour. And in the meantime, I could do whatever I want to do in between that.
So okay, so when you're on the road with him, you're on the road with Ben during just like 2 seasons during the year, and the rest you're at where your house in Nashville working on your own solo stuff.
Yeah, basically, or producing for other artists, or working on scoring stuff, kind of whatever I needed to pay the mortgage.
Right, right, of course.
Yeah, so it was a great situation. And Ben's one of my best friends. He's awesome, and so he was always so supportive of me as an artist and giving me great advice. And yeah, I was really glad to join. And not to jump ahead, but he asked me to come and open for him as part of this acoustic tour.
I saw
So
that.
it was I was so excited about it. It was Ben and I, so just me and Ben, and I played 30, and then Ben and I played his music about 75 minutes, and all these beautiful theaters all over the country. We could fly everywhere. It was 2 shows a week. It was just like the most luxurious tour schedule you could ever imagine. And we got 4 shows in, and it was March 2020, and that was the end of that. So
Oh man, that was
nothing
my
like,
next question, was
yeah,
where you were when this happened. So obviously you're on
yeah,
the road.
by far the biggest opportunity I've ever had in my whole career. And then it was just like Ben and I talk about how it just felt like we were trying to outrun this tidal wave. We were out there on the road. I remember when everything shut down, Ben was actually in Dallas for one of our shows. We hadn't flown out to meet him yet, and they shut everything down, and then Ben had to get back.
Oh, really?
I was at home just like having a panic attack, because the world was going insane. But
Were you
yeah,
seeing the
man, it was.
shows kind of like dropping off as far as like
No,
attendance, or not? It wasn't even
no.
like, okay.
Everything happened so fast at that time. And since we were only doing 2 shows a week, it was like we went out and did 2. People were like, "Uh-oh, should we be worried about this?" And then the next weekend we did 2 more, and people were like, "Yeah, this seems like it's getting kind of real." And then literally like 3 days later, it was like, "Everybody stay home."
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I mean, it got crazy pretty fast, and like so fast that we were canceling shows like almost after the shows that already it was just like so fast. Um, yeah, but and what a bummer because it was going to be so much fun. And then we tried to reschedule it, and then the reschedule didn't work.
Yeah, then the reschedule gets pushed
Yeah,
back.
yeah, just
Of
even like
course.
we had scheduled one show to do in Texas at the end of October, and that one got canceled because COVID.
Oh, really? That
So
one didn't work
yeah,
out either.
so we're still trying to play shows.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're at home for a year and a half. Is that when you start working on the most recent record you put out?
Yeah, so I had been working on it a bit prior. It takes me a long time to make records. I'm the worst, but uh, it I had got it finished finally, and then released it in January of 2021,
Mm-hmm.
and that was Pictures of Mountains,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and was so stoked about it. And yeah, it was just it's my favorite thing I've ever done. And then about 1 month into promoting this brand new record, I start looking at Spotify statistics, and I'm like, what's going on with this song from 3.5 years ago? And the last thing you expect when you're promoting a brand new album is for the last track on your record from 2017 is
Dude,
just going to go
go nuts.
postal on some social network that you're not even a part of. I didn't even have a TikTok account at the time, and someone had to show me like what was happening because I couldn't figure it out. And basically overnight, my life changed. I mean, it took about a month for things to like fully ramp, but I've never experienced anything like it in my career. It's TikTok is like it's like the social media equivalent of a nuclear weapon.
It really is.
Like when it's about to blow, you better get out the way because
Get
it's
out the
crazy,
way.
man.
So you didn't have a TikTok. We're talking about I hear a symphony.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead.
No, 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 no. I'm very curious because I was going to ask you about that. So that song blew up recently over TikTok, and you don't
Yeah,
know what happened, what started the flame.
I still don't really know. I think there was a combination of things. I can only guess. This is
Okay.
my best guess is that um, a couple of K-pop people used it in their radio shows that they have weekly, I guess. I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think that kind of planted the seeds in a really, uh, for lack of a better word, aggressive community.
Right, right.
And so once they took a liking to the song, it just kind of snowballed and then kept getting picked up by bigger and bigger accounts. And uh, yeah, I that's my best guess of what happened. I don't really know, honestly.
Did you see the Spotify numbers going nuts and were like, what is going on? And then you had to eventually find
Yeah.
out it was through TikTok?
Oh yeah, because this is a song. It, I love the song. I think it's great,
Right.
but I
It's a
didn't
great
think anybody
song.
else was. Yeah, and it was doing fine for me. It was doing like 1,000 streams a day or so back in January of 2020 or 2021, and which I was like, that's fine. It was not in my top 5 or anything like that. And then one day, just like inexplicably, it just jumped up to 10,000 a day. And I was like, that's weird. And then it kind of chilled there for a second. And then it jumped up to 40,000 a day and just kind of chilled there for a second. And I was like, and then
Did
it
you
hit
think it was like
100,000 a
fake?
day.
Were you like, what's going on?
I was trying to, I was like, did I do something? What, like, has it been used in some commercial that I'm unaware of? Like, what is
Yeah.
going on? And then when it hit 100,000 a day, I was like, all right, I got to figure out what the heck is happening. And um, we were on vacation at the time, my wife and I, with actually her family, and her brother, just in passing, was like, "Hey man, I saw your song on TikTok today," and I was like, "Stop! show it to me immediately.
Yeah,
And
like, what are
he
you
like,
talking about?
he showed me how to search through TikTok, and I I was just I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. It's like scrolling through just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these fan videos, and just, I mean, some of the weirdest stuff you've ever seen. It's incredible. The weirdness on TikTok. It's the best. And I couldn't, it was like it boggled my mind, and then it just kept growing from there, man. Like I it was really completely out of my control. Like, I made a couple of TikTok videos just saying like, "Hey, I'm the guy who wrote this song," but it wasn't. I couldn't really do anything to stop it or promote it. It was just sort of happening. Yeah, it
So
ended up
you,
like, I think, peaking at about 400,000 streams a day, which is more than, I mean, it's like almost 10 times my entire catalog streaming numbers prior to that.
that is so nuts. That
Just
is
that
nuts.
one song, it's
It's
crazy.
crazy that you had a record out and you're promoting this record, and then
I
something
know.
else is doing.
It's
You're
the
like,
worst,
wait a
man.
minute.
People are like, "Oh yeah, yeah, cool record, but what about this thing?" They
But
just don't
still,
care.
I mean, you still have songs in the new record that, I mean, Photograph has almost 5 million plays, so it's
Yeah,
doing well.
yeah. Things are doing well. I'm believe me, I'm not complaining. It's the coolest thing ever. And the fact that it was I Hear Symphony, to me, was so exciting, because that's a song that uh, is really something that I felt like was a unique thing that I can do, and it
Mhm.
wasn't like straight up the middle pop. And so for people to kind of validate that and say, "Hey, this thing you do, that's a cool thing. You should do more of that." That was
Mhm.
so exciting to me. It kind of gave me permission to like lean all the way in to that thing that I loved anyway, but didn't think could be very commercially successful. But boy, was I wrong.
Was that something that inspired the Beatles cover?
Yes. So the Beatles cover is part of this thing I did after the success of I Hear Symphony. I'm calling it the Symphony Sessions, where um, Eleanor Rigby was tracked on a different day, but essentially the pitch of it is it got in the studio with a 60-piece orchestra for an entire day and filmed the whole thing. So over the next several months, we'll be releasing singles as well as videos of the live performances with this orchestra.
Oh, so you
And
did
it'll
more
all,
than the one song.
yes. So when is this podcast coming out?
Whenever you want it to come out.
uh, okay, as long as it's after next Friday.
Oh, it's
The
coming out after next Friday, after the
Okay,
8th. It will
great.
be out after the 8th.
Awesome. Yeah. So the first like proper single from Symphony Sessions is going to be a collaboration with Ben Rector. He came in and we sang his song Sailboat together, which we did kind of every night I was on the road with him. It was just him and I for the encore, go on and sing the song. It was always a great moment for his fans. And I always imagined what it might be like to do with orchestra. And so Ben was gracious enough to come in and uh, perform the song together. And so that'll be the first single. And then I won't give away what else I've got going on, but I'm so excited about this project.
That is amazing. Is it all covers, or there's originals as well?
No, it's so Eleanor Rigby is the only cover. Sailboat by
Cover.
Ben Rector is a cover, and then it's a mixture of a couple old songs that I wanted to revamp, and then some new original material.
That is awesome. So the orchestra's in the whole thing, but you said 500 people contributed to the Eleanor Rigby piece. Do they all
Yeah, so
contribute to
Eleanor
everything
Rigby,
on the record, or is that a
no.
different beast?
Eleanor Rigby was kind of its own thing, because I really wanted the choir on that, and the choir is where all the people came from. Is
Mhm.
I just had this idea. I've always loved the song Eleanor Rigby, but I thought the lyric during the pandemic really just kind of took a whole new meaning for me. And so I thought, would it be cool to like uh, kind of personify all these lonely people and get as many voices as I can onto this thing. And so I kind of put out the call to my fans, just saying, "Hey, if you've ever wanted to sing on a song of mine, here's your chance." Put together a little sheet music and choir demo for them, and everybody just sent in their files individually, recording on their iPhone, or maybe they had home studio set up or whatever. But I couldn't believe how many people sent in files, and a lot of people would send in like, I sang every single part. Like, send me like 20 files, you know? Oh my gosh, this is wild. And so ended up with just under 400 tracks of vocals and
Did you
added those
produce it?
in. Yes. Well, I also hired my friend Garrett to edit everything
Oh, I was gonna
because
say that's a
boy, that was
beast.
a lot of work. Yeah, you should have
Yeah.
seen the Pro Tools. I mean, it's unbelievable. Uh, but added the choir in on top of the orchestra, which we had already recorded, and then my lead vocal, and that was Eleanor Rigby. And it's kind of been blowing up as well. I can't
Mm-hmm.
really believe the streaming numbers that are happening right now for that song, which I thought was, again, maybe I should stop thinking this, but I'm just like, this is such a weird thing. Like, it's like a 90-second orchestral introduction before the vocals even come in. You know, that's like the
Right.
cardinal sin of music right now.
Right.
And
It's like you don't catch them within like 4 seconds, you're
right.
over.
And I just cannot believe the number. It's like the same thing that happened with I Hear Symphony is happening now with Eleanor Rigby. It, I don't know, man. It's like I just need to throw out everything I've learned about the music business.
Right. I mean, it's definitely taken a whole different turn with TikTok and
Yeah,
the fact that everyone's streaming songs and just finding stuff on playlists instead of going onto the radio and listening. Like it's just a whole different world of
yeah.
the way people consume music nowadays.
It's amazing. I think it's the most exciting time to be in the music industry because
Mm-hmm.
there are just no rules.
Mm-hmm.
If you
I
do something that's unique enough and that it's like everybody can find an audience. It's and that used to be so difficult because there were all these gatekeepers, labels or radio stations or whoever. But now it's just all the gloves are off, man. Like
mm-hmm.
if you work hard enough, you probably can figure out how to make it in music. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you're not going to be a millionaire because the money's not what it was, but at the same time, there's never been a better time to make a living doing music, I think.
Right. And I think to that as well is that people are like you're like allowed now to like 10 different genres of music, or
Yeah,
instead of having like growing up like if you liked punk music, like you could only like your friends better only see that you were listening to like these 10 punk rock bands or going to these punk rock shows. Like God forbid they find out that you like, a Destiny's Child album or something. Like, oh my, now you'll see like a Coachella bill with like Beyonce and Tame Impala, and it's like it
right.
just the genres are just getting so meshed together, which is so rad. I
I
I
think
mean
it's
I think
so cool, man. I really do. Like I think Spotify is such an exciting development for the music industry.
mhm.
Honestly, I know people complain about the money, and I get that. I of course I wish they paid me more,
Right. I mean,
but
yeah, for granted they should pay more per stream,
yes,
obviously.
but there is something to be said about the discovery aspect and the ease of which people can find music and listen to it with. Uh, you can just kind of find whatever you want, and there's no. It's not like you're shelling out a ton of money to check it out, and that's I think something really cool for an artist like me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody could take a listen without having to really worry about, okay, now I got to put $20 on the CD and I
Right.
might only like one song on the record. And
Yeah.
then
The other
what?
thing I love about it is that Spotify is sort of like uh it's the difference between a survey of like how do you how best to say this? Sorry.
No
Uh
worries.
Spotify is like the id of people's music habits.
Hmm.
It's it's not what they tell you they're listening to, it's what they're actually listening to. Because, back in the day, a record label could buy a million copies of the album and make it a platinum album. And, then people would just assume it's good and it would get played on the radio. And, the radio
Right.
plays it, it must be good. But now you're seeing, okay, no, this is what people actually listen to. It's not what they say they listen to, it's what they actually listen to. And I think that's the coolest part about Spotify.
Oh, that's a great perspective. And now well, in that same regard, like people know exactly how many plays bands are getting and songs
Right.
are getting.
Yeah.
And now you can, like you said earlier, like there's an audience for everyone, and you can make a living or you could have a career as an independent artist without having the record label. If you're getting a TikTok hit and
Yeah.
millions of people are now coming over to your page and listening to your songs, like you don't necessarily need a record label to just really distribute anything you're doing anymore.
Yeah, it's never been a better time. There's a ton of record labels approached me when I Hear Symphony was blowing up. And I do think record labels get it. They've changed their deal structures, and things are, I think, becoming more artist friendly. And I think the record labels are more and more realizing, you know what, let's just let this artist do what they were doing and just like figure out how to help out with it, but not try to control it so much.
Sure.
And so I think that's another so empowering for artists to be able to grow your own following first and then go to the people you need help from and say, this is already happening. I'd love your help with this, you know, that just puts you in a great position as an artist.
Yeah, you definitely have leverage that way, instead of them going, totally. You owe me everything because like I see potential in you, but you don't have anything going on. So I'm going to make everything go on for you, but I'm going to take a huge cut of all of that. And
oh my gosh,
you can kind of set yourself up a bit nicer nowadays with the data. Now you can see the data right
exactly.
there.
Yeah, you can't. It's like you just look at the numbers, man. It's just math.
Right, it's just math. I love it. Well, Cody, man, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, this is fun. I'm glad to do it.
Cool. I have one more question. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Oh man, I love this question, and I answer it in many different ways. Today, here's the advice I'm feeling.
I love it.
No one is coming to help you. Do it yourself. Don't wait on that guy to go, hey, I see potential on you. I'll give you $1 million. Do whatever you want. It's never going to happen. You can do it. There's so many tools, just like YouTube, how to release music. Make it happen for yourself. It's never been more attainable, and you should just go do it.